We've all joked about Final Fantasy not being very final. Lucky us, we have Final Fantasy VI, which deserves a place in the Hall of Fame. As soon as you turn on the console, the tone distinguishes it from any other Final Fantasy. Previous games all had a relaxing or triumphant theme before the game began. This is dark, and those background chords around the title are demonic. Now, I'm aware that my game says Final Fantasy III, and no, I didn't get the wrong game. This is the last time I have to mention this, thankfully. I am playing the US translation, and they only received Final Fantasies 1, 4, and 6, renumbered as 1, 2, and 3. When Square eventually released Final Fantasy VII, they synced up the numbers again. The story focuses on a rebel group known as the Returners as they attempt to resist the Gestalian Empire. It draws many parallels between this war and the War of the Magi 1,000 years ago. Since then, magic became a legend and feared. Well, to make a long story short, the Empire was able to harness and abuse the power of magic, and that's how they began conquering the world. They use machines that drain magic from the creatures known as espers. Thankfully, this plot has nothing to do with elemental crystals, and further differentiates itself from others in the series with its steampunk setting. The gameplay picks up with Vix, Wedge, and an unknown character, although this isn't really the start yet. They're all using special walking devices called Magitech armor, created by the Empire. The two named characters are soldiers for the Empire, and they are a reference to Star Wars rebels Biggs and Wedge. Vix had his name translated differently for his first appearance here. This section firstly shows the power of Magitech armor by giving the player control of them in a couple simple battles. Beyond that, we see the strange powers of this mystery character. She's wearing a slave crown to keep her under the Empire's control because she can use magic without special armor. She also has an eerie relationship with espers. The Empire wants her to obtain an esper's power, but it backfires spectacularly. Even with the slave crown, she communicates with the esper and overthrows the soldiers with, I guess, a magic trick of sorts. Sure, the prologue is more interesting than before, but why should you try this game in particular? It's tough for outsiders to tell one Final Fantasy from another. Final Fantasy VI builds its story around characters who, for the most part, are easy to love. You can pilot them around this world and help them fight in a well-refined battle system. Yep, sounds like I'm describing a good RPG. This one has more than just the basic features of a good RPG, and it stands out instantly. The mystery character from the beginning is officially named Terra, and you can rename her if you choose. She awakens in a returner's house in Narsh with no memory except her name. Locke, another renameable character, attempts to escort Terra out the back door, and the friendly Moogles in the mine help ward off the guards looking to arrest Terra for her crimes. This promptly introduces us to a big new mechanic. Before the Moogles step in, very simple battles allow new players to trial the system. For experienced players, it's almost the same active time battle system as Final Fantasy IV and V. When the Moogles join to protect Terra, there are too many for one party, and now you have to swap between 3 different parties of Moogles to tackle the Narsh guards. I love the split party segments like these. While there's very little strategy needed in this instance, it's a great way of introducing this format. In a small maze-like cave, the goal is to block all guards from reaching Terra and defeat them in battle. You have to find a good position for each group to stand and keep track of several characters' health. Teaching this with unfamiliar but powerful characters was a great move, and I was excited when this structure returned later on with my regular party members. As the story goes on, Terra gradually remembers more about herself, and she wants to help the Returners resist the Empire and perhaps strike back. Locke and Terra seek help at Figaro Castle, whose king chose to be an ally to the Empire. He's another character you can rename if you wish, and all renameable characters will fight with your party at some point. Officially, he's King Edgar, and I hated him at first. Leave women alone, why is your personality nothing but flirting? Well, his double agent game drops quickly when a feared member of the Empire arrives to take Terra back. The 3 notable villains are Emperor Gestal, General Leo, and Kefka, whose first appearance is here in Figaro. He frequently laughs and is accompanied by his own theme, and he can use magic. He was once a knight for the Empire, and now he's a Magitech knight, as the first person to undergo the Empire's experimental transformation. Since his transformation, he doesn't hold back, and now he sets the castle on fire to persuade Edgar to hand over Terra. Fortunately, Figaro Castle has many secrets, and your current party of 3 escapes on the back of those lovely little chocobos. As a whole, Final Fantasy VI offers a far better story than any of the previous titles. Without spoiling anything, it explores almost every character's backstory, allowing the player to connect with them. Dialogue between the characters shows them connecting personally as well, not just worrying about the Empire. One of the only things I don't like about this game is how the end of the story rounds out, but I'll talk about that later when I review some spoilers. If you don't want to hear spoilers, don't worry because I still have plenty more to share with you. I really enjoyed the layers of battle strategy available in this game. The active time battle system was refreshing when it was introduced, and now the system is updated with some special functions. Each character in your party can be equipped with up to 2 relics, which provide all kinds of effects and abilities. It may feel like there isn't a lot of character customization in this game, so this is a nice compromise considering there are over 50 different relics. Thank goodness the game tells me what each of them does. No, really, that's a big deal. Older games can't always tell you the functions of items, and they finally figured it out here. That applies to all other items too. You can check their functions at any time in your item menu. You can split up relic abilities into a few different types, and I'll give some examples. Some grant immunity to certain statuses, like the fairy ring protecting against poison and darkness. However, you may instead want permanent status effects such as haste provided by the running shoes. You could give yourself a new ability like a 50% chance to counterattack with the black belt. Or perhaps you want a relic that helps you outside of battles like the sprint shoes to simply walk faster. It's convenient, sure, but you're sacrificing strategy with that one. Of course, I still used it as much as possible. In addition to the relic system, you can meet up to 14 playable characters on your journey. I'll introduce half of them now since they're all early in the game and relatively spoiler-free. Some Final Fantasy games allow you to choose jobs for your characters, such as mages and knights and whatnot, whereas the jobs in Final Fantasy VI are predetermined. The strategy comes in when you consider that each character has their own special battle function. At the start, Terra is the only character who can use magic, although that function is shared with everyone else eventually. She's essentially a mage until her special ability is added later. That's a heavy spoiler, so let's move on to Locke, who can steal items from enemies in battle. Ah yes, the classic thief.
Hey, call me a treasure hunter or I'll rip your lungs out.
Listen, thief, that's not a real role in this universe. With that said, I'm not sure what Edgar's job would be in other games. He's the only character that can use tools. They're simple to use and can often deal substantial damage to enemies. Then there's his long-lost twin brother Sabin, who doesn't stay lost for long in game time. Sabin's martial arts training allows him to use blitzes in battles. The player has to learn a specific button combination for these to work, and when executed properly, they're powerful. Some blitzes even involve elemental magic. Speaking of magic, Celis is another character who can mysteriously use its powers. Her special ability is Runic, which is available if she is equipped with a sword, and absorbs elemental magic attacks cast by enemies. It's very situational. Shadow the ninja can throw items, and Cyan the samurai can charge up his sword tech. This involves a clever risk-reward system. When his high-level sword tech attacks become available, you have to wait for the meter to charge up while the battle goes on around you. Remember, the battle is active, so you can get hurt while waiting, and you can't tell your other members to attack until Cyan's attack is decided. Possible results for sword techniques include attacking 4 times at once. Whew, that was a lot, and there are still 7 more characters you could meet. Their abilities get more complex too. Imagine combining blue magic with a berserker. I won't give away more than that, but if that craziness sounds appealing to you, try it for yourself. I will quickly tie in relics one more time too. You'll find a few relics that can only be equipped by one character because their effects are related to specific abilities. Thief gloves, for example, can naturally only be equipped on treasure hunters because they turn the steal function into capture, allowing them to both attack and steal at the same time. I said this game had a well-refined battle system, and I hope that's clear now. Battling in RPGs can become monotonous, but the designers recognized when the game needed a change of pace and included fun sections with different approaches. Sometimes it's splitting the party, perhaps even for an extended period of time. Or maybe you'll go through a sequence where the game automatically moves for you, occasionally giving you a choice of which direction to pick. This is introduced with a raft ride on a rushing river. Admittedly, the automatic movement doesn't change much since you're still interrupted by battles, but this particular section has an extra objective. You're escorting the returner leader Bannon, who is temporarily playable, and that sadly means he can't be renamed. The catch is, if he dies, you lose. Game over. One small yet crucial change is that you now keep your levels after a game over. Your items are reset, so you'll have to recollect any items you didn't save with. I didn't expect keeping levels to have such a big impact though. If you're stuck, at least you're getting stronger. And I was pleasantly surprised by the difficulty of the game. I worried it would get easy, but I died a few times even early on, and by the end it never felt unfair. The last thing to discuss before some major spoilers is the music. Uematsu is a consistently fantastic composer, and he has stated that the soundtrack for Final Fantasy VI is his best work. Yeah, whether it's manipulating the Super Nintendo to make a mock orchestral sound, or going for techno to fit with the steampunk elements, he aced this entire thing. I will never tire of any song in this soundtrack. This wasn't his first time working with the SNES sound chip, but he achieved an amazing texture that very few games on this console can match. Have you ever tried making music for the Super Nintendo? I have attempted it before. It felt like throwing darts at a child's xylophone to see if it would make pretty music. Meanwhile, Uematsu's darts played an opera, and he simultaneously scored 180 on every dartboard in the world because he doesn't miss. Alright, this is your last spoiler warning. I can't talk about how great this game is without delving into some of the major plot lines. If you haven't played this game and you plan to, you're not ready for my thoughts on this. This comes with a content warning for some serious subjects too. Hopefully I'll see you on the other side. You can skip ahead to the spoiler-free conclusion. I knew this game was special early on when the party was separated after the raft ride. Sabin fell from the raft, so his journey is completely different to Terra and Edgar's simple raft ride back to Narsh. And what about Locke, who stayed back to defend South Figaro? There are 3 different stories to follow, and the developers recognize that it doesn't matter which one is played first. So it's in the player's hands. Whose story do you want to follow now? You have to play all 3 to make sure each group returns safely to Narsh, but this is the first time that the game asks you to choose the main character. It's as if you're invited to finish writing the story. Now, these 3 scenarios are not even close to equal, but that makes sense. Terra's journey back is very short and simple because the raft ride was headed straight back to Narsh. Locke's adventure takes a little longer because he has to sneak out past Imperial troops. Sabin's scenario could take a couple hours. He's lost, but he meets 3 new party members on his way. The game flow is a little odd considering the huge difference in these story lengths, but I'll argue that this was the best way to tell the story overall. The best part of the storytelling is how it develops each character. They all have their own themes, and the motifs are often reused in other parts of the soundtrack. Notably, there are a few sad uses of their motifs because the story is dark. Previous Final Fantasies could be dark in a sense that everyone dies due to a corrupt leader. Well, we have a similar idea here, except the game takes the time to show how each character deals with loss. It may be a past loss like Locke, who lives with Rachel constantly on his mind. I had a hard time getting through his flashbacks because I didn't want to put myself in his position. Or it could be a new loss. When Kefka poisons the river, Cyan watches his entire kingdom fall and his family with them, then witnesses his wife and son board the Phantom train to cross to the other side. Brutal. This is all a key part of how everyone continues to grow and giving players someone to relate to. Final Fantasy VI set new standards and said it was okay to show vulnerability in their characters. Amazingly, even the main members of the Empire have story arcs and character development. General Leo shows early on that the Empire isn't all about death and destruction, even if they are trying to conquer the world. Emperor Gestal himself pretends to show development and pin the blame on Kefka. The trick works on your party, although not necessarily the player. It's easy to believe when you consider Kefka's descent into madness. He really is all about death and destruction, and we'll get to that shortly. First, I have to talk about the opera. Uematsu really did write an opera within his opera. This beautiful sequence is surprisingly controversial. Most people can agree that the soundtrack is a knockout, and it's visually stunning too. Don't mind the overly eager conductor and first row of musicians. The question is, why did they make us sit through this whole thing? The plan for Celes to play the part of Maria is goofy, baiting Setzer into stealing the wrong person and somehow ending with the party going to the Empire's continent. But the developers require you to sit through the opera before the plot progresses. You even have to memorize a few of Celes' lines, and I understand how that can get frustrating. At first, I saw the opera as a lighthearted parallel to the theme of loss the game explores. It shows it with love instead of death. As it turns out, every detail of the lyrics and visuals was very carefully chosen. It isn't just zooming in on character development for Locke and Celes. I was rewatching the opera scene to help write this review, and I saw something. It made me sit there with my mouth open for about a minute. That's an unusual reaction for me. Celes throws the flowers off the roof, and they fall in a particular way. It's eerily similar to the way she throws herself off a cliff later in the game when she's given up hope. In the opera, Maria is forced into marriage while she's in love with someone else. That's a very lighthearted parallel to such a heavy moment. It's a foreshadowing that you wouldn't give any thought to on your first playthrough. Aside from these serious topics, the main part of world building is all about magic. In a world where there has been no magic for 1,000 years, you can see why it's so feared. It's what makes the Empire seem evil to the other characters in the game. Celes is a magic tech knight just like Kefka, except she's a traitor to the Empire. As for Terra, she can use magic because she's half Esper. She has naturally green hair, hinting from the beginning that she isn't simply a human. Discovering the truth about Terra also led to Zozo, which was an awesome section of the game. The crazy thing is, you could have everyone learn every spell in the game after realizing the power of Magicite. Suddenly, everyone has magic when it was a myth not long ago. The drained Espers give their true powers to you before the Empire learns of their flawed methods. I really like this system of learning magic. But what happens when unlimited magic twists someone to be evil beyond repair? Kefka happens. The villain succeeds. He was a Magitech experiment, and now it seems he's too corrupted for the Empire to control him. Emperor Gestal just wanted ultimate power, not to destroy the world. Kefka overthrows him and succeeds in destroying the world. This adds more layers of how your party processes and deals with loss as they fight to save what's left in the new world of ruin. This whole idea is really cool, but after the apocalypse, I saw some flaws creeping in. The game is great at representing the dire situation, as Celeste wakes up a whole year later thinking only 2 people are left. Eventually she finds the main continent and searches for her friends, and she will see them again. It just takes a really long time. While it makes sense in the story to drag out the search, I needed a sense of progress here. The first hour in the world of ruin was too repetitive. You could go to the end of the game with just 3 party members. But why? Why would you do that? You can get all 12 of your original party members back together and then 2 extras. I'd say every side quest is worth doing. Some weren't as well crafted though. I re-entered Phoenix Cave to get an item I missed when I reunited with Locke, and I got very stuck. I don't think this cave was designed for you to re-enter. You will still want as much help as possible from these characters, and you'll gain a lot of levels. It functions as a great alternative to level grinding and provides further backstory or development for everyone. There are also unrelated challenges like the Fanatic's Tower, probably the hardest area in the game, containing a powerful relic. When you're ready to go to Kefka's Tower, you'll have to divide into 3 groups. You can choose the groups yourself and bring along 12 out of the 14 characters. I left behind the characters whose gimmicks I never fully understood, ironically the 2 children Gao and Realm. The tower's design is excellent, and I liked navigating it from 3 different starting points. I find it odd how Kefka never interferes with you though. Occasionally he plays God when you're searching for friends, but not when you draw nearer to him. His character development drops off after he destroys the world, and the plot didn't utilize his corruption as much as I expected. The final battle is pretty insane. It's preceded by a cheesy scene where each party member shares their personal growth, and Kefka mocks them for it. Then you get to set your order of when you want each party member to appear in the battle. It's a 4-phase fight, and you can only fight with 4 characters at a time. If you defeat one phase, any fallen members will be replaced by the next in your order. You don't necessarily want the strongest characters up first, but you don't want all your weakest first because someone has to survive to move on. I've never had to think about this kind of strategy before, and it was by far the most satisfying final boss I've faced in any RPG. The soundtrack is also like another opera just for this battle. Now, my most controversial take on this game is that the ending didn't really round off the story. I'm happy for my characters and that Terra is able to stay in the human world. I just wish I knew how they dealt with a world of ruin. I'm sure it was more peaceful without Kefka, but did they adapt to the ruin or restore any of it? Most people say the ending doesn't need anything more. I was looking for one more small thing to help me leave the story. If I knew what happened next, maybe that would lead to a bigger emotional release. I won't go as far as calling this a flaw though. Welcome back, spoiler-free crew. We talked about some crazy things while you were gone. You should go see them for yourself by playing this game. There are only a couple minor flaws with this game, and otherwise this is a perfect 2D RPG. This set new standards and executed most new ideas very well. Stories in the future would have to say more than "the bad people are bad." The message is, giving characters feelings doesn't have to sacrifice gameplay. I think I've settled on my verdict. My final score for Final Fantasy VI will be 9.5 out of 10. I'm not ready to go higher than that yet, but this is a game you should be playing right this second. I doubt it will change your mind if you don't like RPGs, sadly. Usually if you really dislike RPGs, you just don't enjoy any of them, including something as spectacular as this. I can easily recommend the original on SNES, but I haven't played any remakes yet. I'm reliably told to avoid the PS1 remake at all costs. The GBA remake functions well and has some additional content, but doesn't look or sound as good. And of course, there's the Pixel Remaster from 2022. Typically, these remasters are a solid way to play the 2D games. At release, Japanese magazine Famitsu reportedly gave Final Fantasy VI an average score of 9.25 out of 10. Unfortunately, I'm still missing a source for Famitsu. Over in the US, Electronic Gaming Monthly's panel all gave 9 out of 10. Their Final Fantasy III was Game of the Month and received the Editor's Choice Platinum Award. Meanwhile, in Nintendo Power, their power rankings for US Final Fantasy III totaled 14.9 out of 20. Oh, what? Is everyone okay over there? I have to assume you didn't actually get to play the game. That's just disrespectful. Tell me, did you agree with the points I've made? What rating would you give Final Fantasy VI for the SNES, initially released in 1994? I hope you magically hit the like button and subscribe to join the returners. As ever, thank you for watching, and please continue to be your own unique self.
Hey, call me a treasure hunter or I'll rip your lungs out.